Hello again. Further winds blow, this time from the coast, from Segura. Bravado, out of the earth. During the winter solstice, there was a peculiar gathering in northern Segura. A large raiding party set up an armed camp in the Sobral Strand, a small area of ancient woodland that stands proud on the plains. Representatives of the Hierro, the Corazon, and the Deep Bloods were all present along, reportedly with many healers and thralls. What they did there is not certain, but after they had completed their work, and as they withdrew back towards the main body of their armies, they fired the woods. Ancient trees that had stood since long before the founders were born, destroyed in an afternoon. With the Jotun Lassambrian gone, the freeborn from nearby Sobral came cautiously forth to examine the damage, and to their great surprise found a burial mound hidden at the heart of the burned woods. A burial mound that had been broken open recently by the look of it. More worryingly, certain large carved stones had been broken apart, stones marked with peculiar spiralling designs reminiscent of those at Gita's Vales. Of whoever, or whatever, had lain beneath the hill there was no sign, but it seemed clear to the brave explorers that this had been the burial mound for a great chieftain or ruler of some kind. A mystery, and one that had little opportunity to be explored in more detail. Over the next month, the quiet steppe and the strong reeds march into Segura, ready and able to stymie the invasion of the Jotun Lassambrian. Questions of old burial grounds and ancient forests must wait for another time. Thunder in the grass. In the weeks following the winter solstice, the Orc armies gather their forces and refocus their efforts on the invasion of Segura. In addition to the three armies, there are perhaps as many as 5,000 or more warriors who fight as part of the war bands of independent champions, more traditional Jotun for the most part. It is notable that the Escuta, the army that was the Deep Bloods, have largely abandoned their previous banners and now march under the standard of the Firebard alone, just like the Hierro and the Corazon. Despite this odd change, the Lassambrian Jotun tactics have not changed particularly. The Escuta advance cautiously, vigilant for any significant threat. The Hierro follow after them, focused on their ambition of seizing the entire territory, consolidating gains and putting down any resistance. The Corazon meanwhile courageously roam across the plains, far in advance of the main force, raiding and pillaging seemingly at will. Fortunately for the freeborn, here at least the Corazon do not have it their own way. It soon becomes clear that a subtle enchantment was settled over Segura, gently, carefully drawing no attention to itself. Its effects are barely noticeable at first. Those attempting to flee the Lassambrian Jotun raiders find themselves subtly guided towards the best path to avoid enemy patrols. Their carts run unusually smoothly, and even the roughest trails that might break axles or throw wheels are traversed as smoothly as the finest of the sunset roads. Meanwhile, the Corazon find their luck runs in quite the opposite direction. They take the wrong roads, they miss tracks, they arrive just a little late to intercept a merchant or a caravan. They come on a farm hours after the last of its harvest has been sent east towards Sobral or Bravado. When they do manage to find someone with valuables, when they raid a parador or a farm, they find it almost impossible to actually locate anything worth stealing. As the season presses on, their frustration becomes more and more obvious, but the impact of their raids is dramatically reduced. Perhaps the subtle autumn magic is hard to spot because of a much more obvious presence of the potent spring magic curse that hangs over the territory, infusing all the water in Segura, what water there is, with vibrant healing magic. Any wound that is not fatal heals overnight. The people, orc and human alike, are filled with supernatural vitality. A single draught of water refreshes the body and spirit alike. The Lysambrian Jotun are not prepared for the magic, but quickly adapt to it. It is something of a two-edged sword, as some things often are. While it helps the freeborn endure the march of their orcs, it greatly reduces the impact of their resistance against the invaders. And there is resistance, of course. The people of Segura do not accept their orc overlords easily. In particular, the stubborn Zemrus exiles fight desperately to prevent the Corazon from taking their possessions. And here again the subtle autumn magic twists serendipity in their favour. The raiders soon begin to give the farms of the exiles a wide berth, choosing to look elsewhere for their prey. While ranging far ahead of the main forces, it is also the Corazon who first encounter the Imperial troops come to face them. Forest and farm. The Corazon are clearly expecting someone to come to Segura, and when they encounter the soldiers of the Quiet Steppe and the strong reeds, they rally quickly. The initial clashes between raiders and the Imperial armies are inconclusive. While the Corazon are outnumbered, they are quick to withdraw as soon as they face any serious opposition. The Imperial troops are forced to follow them, chasing them across Segura southwest, towards where the Hierro and Escuta are pushing into Andoseri. If they wish to defend Segura, they cannot do it from Luck Springs and Sobral Grasses. The orc and human forces clash in central Andoseri. The wide open spaces play well into the strengths of the Quiet Steppe, and to a lesser degree the Corazon. The strong reeds and the Hierro form a solid core of the opposing forces, with the Escuta carefully probing the Imperial defences. With the support of the citizens of Segura, the Imperial forces establish a command post at Anazel, from where their commanders direct the defence. Alongside the dour breggers of the strong reeds are several thousand enchanted soldiers summoned from the fields of glory with potent summer magic. Rather than the glorious knights commonly seen accompanying other armies, these warriors of the summon realm take the form of broad-shouldered soldiers with the aspects of various doughty animals, bears, boars, and badgers. They are gruff conversationalists, with none of the airs and graces usually associated with the servants of Eleonaris. But they possess superhuman strength and scatter their orc opponents left and right with blows from their mighty hammers and great swords. Wherever the Corazon or the Hierro attempt to march, the Quiet Steppe are there to slow their advance, harrying their forces from the flanks and moving out to reach before the orcs can effectively counterattack. Enchanted with potent day magic, the Navarre army has a supernatural ability to predict the movement of the Lysambrian Jotun and position themselves to most effectively frustrate their attempted conquest. When they attempt to establish camps or occupy a village, the strong reeds and their magical allies march out to meet them, as often as not forcing the orcs to retreat or risk being caught between a Marcher anvil and a Navarre hammer. There is no single grand battle on the southern plains of Segura. Rather a dozen smaller conflicts during which the orcs attempt to seize ground and the Imperials block their conquest. As the spring equinox approaches, the Lysambrian Jotun realise that their line is becoming more and more ragged. Their forces more and more spread out, more vulnerable to attack. In the final weeks of the campaign they pull back, abandoning several of their more precarious gains, and rally around Anders and the Golden Terraces. Despite the fact that the Lysambrian Jotun have 3 armies in Segura, while the Empire only has 2, it is the orcs who are forced to fall back and not the Imperials. The Lassambrian Jotun continue to treat the conquered freeborn with respect, and issue them their unique version of the more familiar Jotun choice. Join the Lassambrians. Keep their land and their possessions, but agree to accept the conquerors as their rulers, swearing an oath of loyalty and offering a portion of their wealth to the Lassambrians. Or simply leave, with nothing save the clothes on their back, a few sentimental keepsakes, and as much food as they can carry. Loyalty or exile, with death reserved only for those courageous few who refuse the choice either way. In spite of the healing enchantment laid across the territory, after 3 months of fighting, roughly 1,500 soldiers on each side have been slain. Both sides give the other leave to gather their dead, but where the Jotun normally bury their fallen champions beneath mounds of stone and earth, it seems the Lassambrian Jotun are increasingly embracing the freeborn way. The bodies of their heroes are burnt on great pyres, while drums are beaten and old songs chanted. "Why would we bury them?" asks one prisoner contemptuously, in response to imperial questions. Either their virtue has carried them across the abyss, or they have been devoured by it. What use have they for their bodies?